All right, since we're here waiting on the doctor, if you can hear me, put a one in the chat.
Oh my goodness. APGS.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what just happened?
What happened?
I this is only my second time using StreamYard. So I was sitting here talking to myself for that entire monologue.
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So
Oh, you forgot to add yourself.
yep.
Okay.
Oh well. I guess you build the plane as you fly it.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. It's been 15 minutes. All right.
Oh, you gotta do a restart. What were you so the monologue we didn't get to hear, what were you saying?
I was gave an overview of the channel, of my channel, and
Okay.
gee, how this whole topic came about, and how we got here. You know, what some of the key points, the pros and the cons.
Uh-huh.
So
So let me ask you this.
yeah,
What do you think about the two models? Because there's two models going on, right? Okay, the arena teams, like the NA, like the NBA and the NHL are doing what they call the bubble, um, the bubble theory. In other words, they isolate the players, they isolate the arenas from the public. So they say, like in NHL, they have two bubble cities, Toronto and I think it's Edmonton is the other one, and they have what they call bubble hotels where there's nobody but players and staff. And so they go to the teams go to the arena and they play and they go back to the hotel and basically they stay in their little bubble. And same thing with the NBA. We know the NBA has this whole big like resort that's like a bubble resort for the players. So and then baseball and football are not doing that. They're not doing the with the things with the bubble.
right.
So what do you think about one ideology versus the other?
I think that the safer. I tend to think of this in terms of variables
Mm-hmm.
and things that can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the bubble format has the fewer variables. And so I think that in theory, that format has the greater likelihood of working.
Mm-hmm.
And the non bubble format, yeah, you just, there are more variables because if the players are going home or they're going to unknown locations, then that's going to increase the likelihood of them bringing something back in
Yeah. Yeah.
to the field of play.
Say like what's going on with not just the NFL because with pro teams they have more control, but say like with high school or college, they're talking about like I said with the NCAA they're talking about actually starting back up in I think it was 26th of September. I think that was the date.
Yep.
Okay, and they're still traveling from one city to the next, if I'm not mistaken. They're not like housing all the teams in one spot.
That's another good point. That in itself is going to contribute more variables to the whole thing. You know, if everything is contained, then it's relatively contained. But if you have to get on flights and come into contact with people at the airport and travel from the airport to the hotel, there are just more moving parts there. Now I think that's reduced by keeping it regional.
Mm-hmm.
If because my team, for example, Michigan was gonna go out to Washington,
Mm-hmm.
play the Huskies. I can see the logic in keeping it regional because now, let's say all of your red hot states are states like Arizona and Texas and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It helps to not travel to those regions, in my opinion.
Yeah, but things got like Arizona is part of the Pac-12, so
Yes.
um, along with the Utah team. So um, it's a red hot state, but it'd be going to another state that's probably not as red hot, like maybe like Oregon or Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be fascinating how this is actually going to work because everybody knows this is about money. It's really not about safety of the players. It's about money.
Mm-hmm.
How can you still keep the TV contract money and kind of keep your players safe?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you think it can be done?
I think that there is a gamble to this, and I think that it can be done. They're just going to everybody's going to have to be all in terms of like the stunt. Lou Williams just played going to the strip club.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have something like that. You can't have someone going out, and exposing themselves and then bringing something back.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that there's risk.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's risk, but I think that if everyone adheres to the safety protocols, you can minimize it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also no guarantees.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. That's the thing especially about amateur sports. Okay, you talk about kids basically,
Right.
and keeping kids corralled.
Right.
It's difficult enough when there's nothing going on. But the thing is, when there's something as extreme as COVID going on, trying to keep kids to keep a protocol.
Yes, I agree.
We talk about we're talking about thousands of kids, college kids.
I agree. Yeah, some of them. Yeah, well, they know they're not supposed to drink and drive. Some of them still do that. Some of them still get into domestic disputes with their girlfriends, and that still happens. So I definitely agree.
Yeah. So you talk about a relatively old man like Lou Williams sticking out to a strip club. That's mature. He's not like he's a 20-year-old. He's in his mid-30s. He's sneaking out to a strip club, even though he knows he's supposed to be staying inside the bubble.
Right. And also, as we've discussed in some of the other spaces, the thing is mutating, and the testing is going to have to be exemplary, especially for the football players, because the linemen are touching each other on every play.
Yeah,
they're breathing on each other every play. They're falling all over each other on every play. So the testing is going to have to be exemplary.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the actual on the field play is going to be, because so far, looking at the NBA and the NHL, it hasn't been. It does look like preseason play. So it hasn't been like they're not in top form.
No, they're not.
So they're not. So far, it doesn't look like they're really adjusting to not having a crowd.
What do you mean?
In other words, you can tell the energy on the floor is not the same because there's no crowd.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely does feel like a basketball camp.
Yeah,
a basketball camp where there's a well, as you said, the fans aren't there, so there's something missing.
Yeah,
they're competing, but it feels like a basketball camp.
Yeah, it feels like a pickup game.
Game.
Yeah, that's what it's starting to feel like. And I look at it. You look at their. You can tell the difference by the way they play defense. Okay, yeah, in a more advanced or seasoned game, the defense is a lot more intense. And I noticed the way by the way they play in defense is like, sometimes they'll get there, sometimes they won't. So I'm wondering how this is going to translate to football.
Yeah. Well, I think they would have. Football has spring camps and they have all kinds of early summer activities.
Mm-hmm.
So at most, they'll probably have a month to get together and to get everything get into shape
Mm-hmm.
and get those different rhythms going on for the different positions, and then trying to meld everybody together. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'll probably be something we haven't, unlike anything we've seen before.
Yeah, that's to say the
Well, I
least.
mean,
And
yeah,
I think all the people around are saying that it's nothing they've ever seen before.
yeah.
So I'm not shocked, but I'm kind of surprised a little bit because I thought that amateur football would be the first to actually go. Not to say we're not going to have a season because they don't have the same commercial contracts like the NFL, the NHL, and NBA does. Basically, half your players weren't making money, and they had no way to make a living.
Right.
So, which is inspired them to actually try to salvage something.
Right. Well, the schools themselves count on that revenue. All the conferences have their own TV contracts. So there's a lot of money to be lost by the institutions and the conferences. So, yeah. So, I think, some of the Marlins players tested positive.
Yeah, I heard that about 4 of them. I think it was.
Okay. And I'm not sure if that was, well, I'm not sure where those players went and how they got it and how they brought it back. So
I think didn't they start postponing games in baseball because of that?
I believe so. So. And I've over in the NFL, I've heard that my best friend told me the Patriots they were a little skittish. After doing the research myself, I didn't see anything that said that they were not gonna play. But some of the teams are definitely, and the players are opting out, and some players have opted out.
Yeah, I think that there's a growing list of players that have actually opted out.
Okay.
So I'm seeing a growing list of players that are actually opting out. Now it started with the NBA, where a whole bunch of players just simply opted out, and I think there's a growing list in the it's like NFL. I think there's like 6 or 7 Patriots, Patriots that actually opted out. And I was looking at the list before we got on, and I think there's like maybe 20 or 30 players in the NFL that actually opted out. I don't know what it is in the, I say like in the amateur ranks, like the college football. I haven't really heard anything.
No, I haven't either.
They've been pretty tight-lipped about any information coming from college football about players opting out or anybody testing sick. Have you ever heard anything about any players testing positive?
No, I have not. All I've heard is that the conferences intend to go forward with the non-conference play, and potentially having a couple of open dates so they can shuffle the schedule around if need be. That's the only thing that I've heard, that I've read.
Yeah,
but also, I read an article last night saying that they still have not 100% committed to going forward. So I guess they're still gathering whatever information and trying to game plan the thing before they go forward. They may want to see what starts to happen with the NBA if they can keep players healthy in their format first, which I think will be smart.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think it's a lot easier in the NHL and the NBA because they were actually basically isolating the players completely.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas all the other teams aren't. All the other sports aren't. They're not isolating the players. So they let the players go home, or they let the players interact with family or whatnot. So I'm going to be real curious about how this works out. But the thing is, we're not getting any test result, like saying that they're testing the players and they're all coming back clean, or there's so many players that are testing positive, because the NBA did that earlier, and I think the NHL did too. I mean, not the NHL, but the NFL did too, about who's testing positive and who's not. So I'm real curious about the amateur sports, because it's not just college; it's also high school. There's a lot of southern states in about football that they're just gonna have a season.
Yep. Well, I just interviewed someone here on my channel from my hometown, and he told me that he has his schedule, already made up, and he plans on coaching his team this winter. So, I mean, there's a lot of time between then and now, but he was optimistic about going forward and playing the games. Now, what's going to be, I was thinking about this as well. What's going to be interesting is that the NBA has restarted.
Right.
So they're just trying to finish up what they started from last year. But the other sports are going to have to decide if they're going to try to do their entire season. Football basically goes from the fall into the winter. Baseball, that would have finished up. See, I can't figure this out. That would have finished up in October if it had gone the way it was supposed to. And then hockey's supposed to go just like basketball from November all the way up until June.
And just so if you say if you were in charge, what would you do? So if you and Dr. Fauci got together, what would you get? What would you do?
I would. Well, some of basically the things I've described.
Okay.
I would try to mimic as much. If it's football, I would try to mimic that bubble format as much as possible, and I would just try to control as many of the variables that I could control and test like hell. Just try to stay on top of that and make sure that if someone gets it, that we're detecting it and then isolating those players off.
So with most of the campuses being empty because most of the college courses are online, does that help?
I believe it does.
Okay.
Because once again, we go back to variables.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're cutting down on the number of variables, then you, in theory, would cut down on the potential for infection. So in a way, yes, that does help out. It's interesting. Also, this week, I went to go see my, speaking of that, I went to go see my primary care physician.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him about how safe flying was.
Uh-huh.
And he told me, I thought he was going to say, no, don't do it. But he did tell me that you said you're relatively safe on the plane. I was like, really? He was like, yep. And he said the danger for the travelers is going through the airport.
No, that's true.
Because you have to go through TSA, you're standing in line. And with all of you coming into contact that way, he said there's more potential for infecting each other there than actually on the plane. So similar deal.
Okay. Yeah, that would make
and there are fewer people traveling.
Yeah.
From what
right now.
right now. Right. I mean, a bunch of people might get that advice as well and say, "Oh yeah, we can go out and travel now." And then next thing you know,
yeah, you're on a plane with 300 people.
Start getting it. Yeah. So BGS. So in my monologue, I've spoken about the business aspect of this. So this is not just affecting the leagues themselves, but all the businesses surrounding the leagues, surrounding the play, the hospitality, the food service, the travel, the merchandise. Yeah. So there's a whole domino effect to this, as with everything else COVID has infected. affected.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's all synergistic. The restaurants, bars, yeah, hotels,
Hotels.
the nightlife that surrounds the arena.
Yep. The
Yeah, all
nightlife.
that's gonna be, yeah, because yeah, but sports is pretty much part of the entertainment industry.
Hmm.
Not to mention gambling.
That's a good point as well.
Not to mention gambling, which has been affected. It's gonna, yeah. So basically, yeah, with sports not being there, I'm sure Las Vegas is losing a ton of money because
Mm.
there's no sports betting.
No, no, there isn't. No, there isn't. You're out there on the West Coast. Have you heard much from Vegas?
Uh, Basically, it's from what I'm hearing, it's they're having a tough time because, like I said, Vegas depends, especially on the strip, on travel
Hmm.
and hospitality, and basically, especially the big hotels. And if a lot of the hotel staff is getting sick. In fact, there's some of the hotel staff is actually has died. So that's another thing that's actually scaring off the travelers and the guests. So they're keeping it quiet, but they're struggling.
Okay.
They're struggling a lot. In fact, the I think the casinos are like instead of then right now they be really be full, but now they're maybe down to a quarter or something like that.
Yes.
And with social distancing, it's not crowded anymore. So yeah, they're struggling right now.
Okay. Okay.
So
Wow.
they're the ones that I think there was the mayor that wanted to open back up and take have everybody take their chances. But I think when the hotel staff started getting sick, I think that's when people were actually were more scared to actually go to Vegas and actually participate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a real cluster because there's just so many people there at any
Hmm.
time. When things were open, there were just so many people there at any given time
Yeah.
on the streets, in the casinos, in the hotels, in the restaurants.
Hmm.
So that's a nightmare.
Yeah, and they come from all over the country
They come from all over the country.
and really all over the world. They actually come there and gamble and visit. So it would be the same thing as like Disneyland or Disney World or something like that because it's like one big resort.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I know that for the college football, there are a lot of us hoping that this will go forward. But I mean, obviously, the student athletes. I think that the safety of the student athletes is the most important thing. And if again everything has to go forward, if it's going to go forward, it should go forward with as many safeties and possible as many safeties in place as possible for them because they're not getting paid like the pros are. Um,
Yeah, I was hearing that earlier. I think it was like maybe a month or so ago that the college football players were demanding to actually have their stipend increased if they're actually going to go on the field and risk their life.
okay,
They wanted a bigger cut of the TV money. If we have to go on the field and take chances that other students aren't taking, we need to have our stipend increased. I don't know how far that went, but it's actually a valid point.
it does make sense. I mean, if there was a time that you would compensate them, now's the time. Or at least give them a little something more.
Yep, yep. What do you think would happen if, say, the first case that they announced of the first case of a player being testing positive?
What do I think would happen?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, how many do you think one make a difference, or would it take more than a few, or what do you think would happen?
yeah, I mean, then at that point, you've got to test the whole team.
Hmm.
You've got to test the coaches. You got to test the whole group. Um, and I don't know enough about the multiplicity of the
Hmm.
virus or how we know that you can have it and not have symptoms.
Right.
but I don't know. I mean, at that point, you're kind of it depends on the immune system of each individual player. But you'd have to test everybody right away. I mean, and you probably end up canceling a game, at least one game, because of that, because you don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, I know that I know initially, when they open up camp, they have to get tested. So, would they be tested like once a week? Would they be tested every other day? How often would they be tested?
Yeah, I thought one of the articles I looked at, the one I looked at
Mm,
last night, I didn't see specifics on that, but I do recall seeing somewhere that it would be every couple of days,
okay, that makes sense.
periodically. And so,
Yeah, because they're pretty vague about opaque about what kind of testing they're doing, how they're handling the players. I think the only I think sport that has been open is actually NBA, where they've actually showed you um, the teams actually being in the bubble. I think it was JaVale McGee. He's actually doing a series on YouTube, right, called "Life in the Bubble," and he's
oh,
showing it is actually showing the behind the scenes of what they do on a daily basis, how they train, um, how they go to where they go to eat, how they get served their food, um, how they get together and say like that. They were showing, I think it was Kyle Kuzma's birthday, and it's
mm,
showing how this birthday party, and it was basically NBA players around, and they actually go through walks around the complex. And other than the players, it's really, really empty, really, really quiet. But I think they're the only sport that's actually showing what's going on behind the bubble, inside the bubble.
okay.
I don't know. Have you seen anything like it's like normally you would see the what's going on inside these like NFL training camps or even training camps for colleges. Have you seen anything?
I have not. You're right.
Hmm.
Usually they have, well, not documentaries, but they have live coverage of training camp
Yeah,
and what to expect this season and who's winning the job, those kinds of things.
yeah.
But no, it's been pretty much quiet, and I think that's probably a reflection of all the uncertainty.
Hmm. Yeah, because I think for colleges because I know for the NFL they canceled the preseason, at least most of the preseason.
Right.
And I think college has set things back. So basically, the colleges are supposed to report what next week to training
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah. We're in early August.
Yeah, I think it was the 7th, and then think it was like for 7th for like the Big Ten. I think it was like the 14th for like the Pac-12. That's what I was reading, and then the games on the 26th. I think the start of the season is on the 26th.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're gonna whatever happens, we're gonna find out soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I thought they would cancel the whole season. Yeah, I thought they would have just like just cancel the whole season for the year and then wait to see what happens like next season.
Right.
But I think but money, money talks.
So you're convinced this is all money driven?
Uh, yeah. I don't see players actually advocating for this. I need to have football or I need to have basketball. The fans maybe, but I think it's money driven.
Yeah. Okay.
With the NBA, I know with the NBA, I know it's money driven because they're actually saying that 50% of the players weren't going to get paid, and they were complaining about they were negotiating about how much they could pay the players that were actually under contract. They were veterans, and I think this is what they came up with. Okay, if we're gonna pay you a certain amount of money, then we're gonna have to have some games because they have to fulfill the TV contracts.
Okay. Okay.
So when high school may be a little different, but I know with the NCAA, it's money driven.
All right. It is a business in itself.
Yeah, well now we know now we actually pulled the veil. It's not just fun and games anymore. It's actually a business. Like it's actually entertainment,
Right.
and that's one thing that COVID's kind of revealed. And for the most part, I know people would want sports, but the thing is, for the most part, people have kind of gotten along without it. Like, okay, it's it's just entertainment. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but you're a big Michigan fan. What have you been like fiending for Michigan football or Michigan
Well, I'll
sports?
tell you what, I don't know. Looks like we got 6 people watching. I think a lot of our fan base
Uh-huh.
is a little frustrated. Has been
Hmm.
frustrated over the last 5 years
Hmm.
with the product that's gone out there, and not beating Ohio State. And I think that all of us, as with everyone else, have been have been ready for the season to start, but also there's been a bit of we're going to lose again this year. So half the fan base I think is loyal, and then the other half is when things don't go well, the sky's falling.
Oh, okay. In other words, fair weather fans.
Yeah, put the coach's head on a stick and let's march around the outside, burn the whole thing down.
So is bad football better than no football?
Uh, I would say yes. I mean, I think all of us want to be back in quote unquote normal.
uh
Um, yeah, and then you know what? I've seen comments under some videos where you know maybe it's good if we don't play this year because we won't lose to Ohio State again. So it's a mixed bag.
Well, maybe since things are kind of up in the air, you might have a shot.
Yeah, yeah.
You might
Hey
have a
man,
shot.
so we have looks like a small group of people watching. What do you think about me putting the link in
Yeah,
to see if anyone
yeah.
wants to come up and put their 2 cents in? Okay, so I'm gonna take this link. I'm gonna drop it in the chat if anyone wants to come on and give your 2 cents on this whole thing. Now's the time.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm an avid Laker fan, and I thought I would miss it, but since there's so much going on with the economy and family stuff like that, it's like I had to actually make myself actually tune back in and see what's happening with the Lakers. In fact, I've only seen like the parts of the game. It's like it's been gone, the momentum stopped. It's like, eh. It's like I can live with it or live without it.
Yeah. Did you watch the game on Thursday night?
I watched parts of it.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's like you know how it seemed like there was something missing. There's no kind of electricity, and then I'm looking at the players play. It's like it looks like a preseason game.
Right.
It was kind of hard to get excited, and plus, they've had to reshuffle the teams because there's players that opted out,
Right.
and there's pieces that don't fit or that didn't fit like the way that, it was before. So it's like I'm watching a pickup game, and then the way they probably need to tweak the way they're presenting the game
Okay.
because I don't think the virtual fans are actually working because
Okay.
they have the little monitors, the board in the back, and have the virtual fans to make it look like there's some fans in the seats.
Okay. That's right.
But
Right.
but you can tell there's nobody in the arena because when you can actually hear the shoes squeaking,
Yes.
you can tell that the place is not full.
Right. Right.
So it seems like a pickup game, or it seems like a what they call it, a G League game.
Yes. Yeah. And the whatever that fan noise is that they're trying to simulate, it's like an ambient noise. Uh it's kind of like sitting on a beach and hearing the water
Yeah,
in and
yeah,
out.
yeah, Yeah, you would think they could actually pump in an AI to actually actually resemble the crowd noise according to the play.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's one thing they could do? It should be fairly simple to program an AI to actually watch the play and actually pump in the appropriate crowd noise.
Okay. Yeah, and so I think that yeah, one of the things this has shown is that part of sports as we know it is the fans being there, and the fans, because that definitely adds something to the environment and the drama of the game unfolding there in front of us. Um, so this is definitely, uh, but I think we've taken that for granted all these years as well. The
Yeah,
fact that
we have.
we can all pile into an arena or stadium, and breathe on each other and yell and scream next to each other, and pile into the restroom together at halftime. I think we've all taken that for granted, as
Yeah,
with a lot of other things.
and the players have actually adapted to playing in front of people. And I'm sure it changes their play. I'm kind of curious about how they're going to handle it with football because I see how it's affected the game, like on the court. Even though I checked the Nielsen numbers there, I know the first night it was actually like a little bit better than average, and it's dropped off since then. So I'm wondering how the fans are actually going to react to having no fans in the arena. Like you said, the bands and all the other stuff that normally goes on on the sidelines and stuff like that.
Right. That's a huge part of the experience
Yeah,
for
especially college. Yeah, college is like the
party football.
cheerleaders and the bands and the noise and the students.
Yeah. Um. Okay. Yeah. I didn't get to see the entire game on Thursday because I was streaming the game through my Fire Stick. I don't have
Hmm.
I have limited channels on my traditional cable, so I tuned in. I called myself being smart and trying to tune in like an hour in advance to TNT, but by that time everybody was already in, so I couldn't get a link to the game.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was stuck trying to look at it on Facebook, and getting updates from some of my friends. So if anyone's watching this and wants to come in and throw their 2 cents in, the link is right there in the chat. We'll go for a little bit longer. Um,
So you haven't seen any games yet?
I have the game on in the background here. I was looking at the Clippers. The Clippers and the Pelicans are on right now, actually,
Mm.
and I think the Thunder and someone else was on earlier. So I have it. It's not the opening game. It's not LeBron versus Kawhi. So I think there's a little less traffic. But yeah, I was looking at it today.
What's your impression? Just eyeballing it.
Well, I'm glad to see something. Um, I'm glad to see something. Uh,
So bad basketball is better than no
Bad
basketball.
basketball better than no basketball. I have two buddies who are diehard Laker fans, and they were really giving me the business because I guess to kind of tweak them a little bit, I've been rooting for the Clippers, and they were really really happy Thursday night. But it looks kind of artificial, as we described. It looks like a basketball camp. It looks like a
Mhm.
summer league, and but it's the best we've got right now.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the fans will react to it. So far, it's kind of like middle of the road. Um, I think the only sport that has helped was the WNBA. They got a lot better ratings because there's nothing going on.
Okay.
Now
Not
they were actually really touting it, say, "Oh, we got a new fan base because there's, in fact, I think they're getting a little bit more money because there's nothing going on." So
okay. Now, did the WNBA did they start recently or
I think they started a little early. I think they started like because this is their normal season
yes?
in the summer. So I think they started maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Okay, so we have two leagues going on then.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. You got soccer. You have soccer. You got the NHL. You got the NBA. If you add football, you're gonna have basically all the teams going at one time.
Okay. What's funny is I haven't really heard. Now, I haven't been on ESPN. I have to admit that, but I haven't
Mhm.
really heard so much about the WNBA resuming. So I don't know if that's bad. I haven't been in the right spaces, or that says something about how they've been publicizing it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have kind of like tuned out of sports since there was no seasons going on at all,
Right.
and there wasn't any sports for like 3 months. So I think a lot of people kind of tuned out, and trying to get them to tune back in is going to be a chore.
Okay.
Because there's no baseball now. Normally you have baseball, you'd have basketball, you'd have hockey, and then you kind of roll into the next kind of set of sports. But since there was nothing for like 3 months, people kind of like tuned out.
Right. Right. Okay. So BGS, quick question. I remember listening to one of your videos, and you had told me you said something about doing some coaching.
Hmm.
Had you So you done some coaching in your time?
Yeah,
Did you play and coach, or just did some coaching for?
mostly coaching, a little playing in high school, but yes, mostly coaching younger teams. I think I coached a girls' high school team for the summer, maybe back like maybe 20 years ago. But
Mhm.
yeah, mostly coaching kids in the park leagues and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's fun. It's different, um and we're watching kids get better. In fact, I think it was like earlier this year, one of the kids I coached, he was at the house. We were actually watching the Super Bowl, and
Hmm.
he remembered that when we won the league semi championship, we came back from like 25 points down and actually beat the best team in the league, and he still remembers that to this day.
Oh wow. Okay. How old was he at the time?
I think he was 10,
Okay.
and he's in his 30s now,
Okay. Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
remembers it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. You never forget. If there was a point in your life when where you were able to compete this way, you never
Hmm.
forget it. You never forget it. Um, that because there's something special about being able to compete in a sport.
and
Um,
and you're always coach no matter what.
okay.
They always remember you. Hey, coach. So who are you? Who are you? Oh, okay. Yeah, you were little last time I saw you.
Yeah. Uh, because that makes so much of an impression on you when you're younger. I don't know if I told you, but I'm working on a book project about
Okay. Uh,
about my my high school basketball experience and what that experience taught me about how to succeed. Uh, and my coach actually made quite a difference. The experience didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. It actually turned out quite the opposite of what I thought it would turn out.
mhm.
But learning about persevering and discipline and uh, being on the same page with teammates and having teammates have their own agendas
Mhm.
that all contributed to who went on to become.
Yeah. I think what I learned because playing basketball, also running track because my track coach was actually Carl Lewis's track coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And what I learned and what he taught, and I heard a marathon runner say the same thing. Um, knowing the difference between pain and discomfort. And as in sports, you learn how to be uncomfortable,
Yes.
whereas most people don't. Most people, you can tell people that have never played sports, they get a little discomfort and they quit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's even in life. Say the difference between you and some other people that going through school.
Yes.
Um, you don't mind being uncomfortable or staying up late or being tired or something like that because when you played, you had to play through that. You had to train through that. You had to get up and go to practice, whether you were tired or not feeling well or down or whatever. You had to get in the gym and go practice. And you had to go, and right after practice, go shoot. You had to go through the drills to make yourself better. It's like step by step.
Yes.
And even in say, even when I do say, like, teaching, like pickup, right? You know how when basketball, you have to break down whatever move it is, or whatever skill is, into component, like how to go behind your back and dribble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you may practice putting the ball behind your back like 1,000 times, like just that one little move,
Yes.
that one little move, and then you add something to it, right?
Yes.
And then you add something to that, and by the time you finish all these little bitty components, now you have a complete skill, as far as putting the ball behind your back, or drilling between your legs, or adding a jump shot, or adding a fadeaway, or learn how to rebound. All those, we have to break down all those little components into little subcomponents and get better, at each one. And as you do it, when you do all that, when you add it all together, it becomes a complete skill.
Yes.
And if you add that to school, to like learning science, okay, or learning social skills, or learning whatever, right? That all those things relate, because you said, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, this is what I need to do. What's the first thing I need to learn, right? And then you divide that into a smaller components, and you start. I'm just going to work on this little piece and get good at it, and then I'm going to add the next piece, and the next piece, and the next piece, and pretty soon you get good at whatever you're trying to attain. And I think sports does that for you.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly right. And that's what, for anyone looking at this, we were talking about COVID and sports, and we're just kind of veering off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone wants to jump in, the link is right there in the chat. But I was going to say, Master Teacher, that's one thing that experience taught me, was how to get good at something.
Right.
And kind of segueing into some of the things we talk about over on your channel,
Mm-hmm.
It makes a difference if there's a man there
Mm-hmm.
to help you with that. Because when I went through that, there were no men around. And so if you don't, it's difficult, it's harder to do without those mentors there.
Yes.
Who tell you, who kind of been through that already, and who've done the skills development.
Right.
That's harder to do if your mother's just there.
Yeah.
And because the coach can't do everything. The coach can't go home with you at night. The coach can't sit there and watch the games with you when you're home.
Mm-mm.
And so it makes a difference if a mentor is there.
Yeah. Yep. And tell you, and will be with you in the backyard.
Yeah.
Seeing if your dribble is off, or okay, or your shots off, or something like that, because your father becomes your greatest fan, also your most harshest critic at the same time.
Yes, that's right. And it makes a difference looking in the stands and seeing that person there.
Mm-hmm.
As well, supporting you and advocating for you, and all of those things make a difference in your success as a player.
Right. It does. It really does. Yeah. It makes a difference. You can tell the difference between, say, like Steph Curry.
Yep.
Because he had a dad, and his dad was in the NBA. Same thing with Kobe. Dad was in the NBA.
Yep.
His first coach, and he could tell him what moves to make, what moves not to make, and what to work on, what worked for him and what didn't, what skill is good and what skill isn't, or who to talk to, what player to trust,
Mm-hmm.
what players to watch. Like Kobe used to be an avid student of the old NBA basketball.
Yes. Yes.
And his dad would take, okay, look at this particular move, and look at this guy, and look at the little thing that he does that you don't know, that most people won't notice, which does help.
Yep. That's right. And it makes a difference to have that person there, taking you to sectional games when you're 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So that by the time you get to high school, you already know what it is, and you already know about postseason play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that all works out. And as I've been working on this project, well, it to this day, yeah, my mother doesn't see how all of those pieces mattered, or why it mattered to have a male there. But yeah, I guess that is what it is.
Yeah, well, yeah, because one, a male is role is different than a female's role. Okay, a
Yeah.
female's role is to nurture, and a father's role is to push, and it's supposed to be balance between the two, where
Mhm.
the female will actually pull the father back a little bit because you're being too hard, and a father's job is to actually push that child further to make the best of him. I think a lot of, especially in Black community, I don't think we push our kids hard enough.
Oh, really?
No, we don't. As far as in family, like an Asian family, like if you look at the average, and I've of study, right?
Hmm.
Um, uh, guess what guess what the Asians actually, how many hours Asians actually study per day?
Oh boy. 6,
Yeah, close, 5.5.
5.5,
Yeah. Guess what Black people actually study? The average Black student studies.
2,
Very close, 2.5.
2.5. Okay. My father quoted that data, well, similar data,
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger and still trying to figure out how to excel at academics, because it took me a while to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I always remembered that data set in that
Yeah.
study, whichever study that was. And I think white kids are somewhere in the middle.
White kids are white kids wind up about 4,
Yeah,
and then Hispanic Latin kids wind up around 3.
3.
So a little bit better than Blacks folks, a little less than white folks, and nobody outworks the Asian students.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, but the thing is, one thing sports does teach you that school does it is um, sports. You have to find out the most efficient way to do something. It's not just hard work. You also have to find the things that actually work for you.
okay.
And I think that's one thing sports helps because um, with I say in math is when I actually tutor students in math. Okay, it's not about just taking out the book and doing a whole bunch of problem sets, right? Like
Hmm.
normally the way they teach you. Do a theory and basically do a theorem and
Hmm.
work through the theorem, give you a couple examples, and then throw you out, right?
Hmm.
And but that's not necessarily the most uh, uh, the best way to actually teach kids to do math. So I had to figure out what's the quickest, most efficient way to teach math. Okay. And then one part is memorization, and one part is just basically, working through the problem set, right? So the
Hmm.
most efficient way for me, what I found out, I constantly had to go back and forth, look at the book, and look up the theory, look up the formulas, and then the theorems and stuff like that. So when I got to where I was actually tutoring, I said, okay, what's the problem that I had going through mathematics? I said I never actually memorized completely the formulas and theorems. So I had all my students actually do what? First, we're going to actually memorize the theorems and the formulas first before we do anything else.
Hmm.
Get that down to where you actually have it in your head. And you just have them write the formulas that they're actually going to use on the top of the paper before they actually start the problem sets. And guess what? They actually learned to pick it up a whole lot faster, much more efficiently than they would the way the teacher was teaching.
Hmm.
Because instead of teaching the whole thing, we're breaking it down into individual skills. Okay, you're bad at this. Let's bring this up. You're bad at that. Let's bring that up. Just like in basketball, if you can't dribble, what's the first thing you have to learn how to do? Dribble.
Hmm.
You got to work on that, right? If your jump shot is bad, you got to work on your form first and then shoot shots, right?
Hmm.
Same thing. There's a certain motion for free throws, bending your knees, basically squaring yourself up,
Yep.
follow through. watching your elbow, lining yourself up. In
Yep.
fact, uh, I learned from old school people basically how to even before you shoot a free throw, right? You walk in front of the basket, right? Put your non-shooting hand behind your back and take one hand and work on your follow through and your motion with just your non-shooting hand, with your shooting hand.
Okay.
And then you take a step back and you keep doing it and keep doing it until you get to the free throw line, right?
Yep.
And by then you can actually put your support hand back on it. But the thing is, your motion will be the same. But that's just taking one skill, breaking it down into a subcomponent, and then start adding things.
Okay.
But that's what sports does. They break it down into little bitty components. And even in the NBA, you can actually look at, say, like a Steph Curry or a Paul George or even a LeBron James, and see what kind of drills they actually go through. The drills actually break down whatever small component of their game into that little tiny bit, and just work on that, concentrate on making that perfect. And then you start adding things. So the more things you add, the better that that particular skill gets. And I think that relates the same thing for anything, for learning, for language, for um, anything. Like, I think Tim Ferriss is actually very good at that, at breaking things down into their subcomponents
Okay.
to get a faster outcome. In other words, his thing is the minimum effective dose.
Okay. And Tim Ferriss is.
He wrote the 4 Hour Work Week. He wrote the 4 Hour Body. So I'm sure that anybody's that heard of the 4 Hour Work Week, that kind of revolutionized the way we do things online. And you've probably heard of Tim Ferriss, but he's one person you should look up, especially the 4 Hour Body. He also wrote the 4 Hour Cook, and what he does, he actually breaks things down into their subcomponents and works on them just that little bit, and then keeps adding things until he gets a complete skill.
All right. Fascinating. Okay.
And so he's done that for. He's basically made a whole industry out of that. So he basically does that he did that for learning how to swim, because he couldn't swim. For lifting weights. In fact, that one of his skills I actually tried, which is increasing your bench press, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what he did, he actually went to the world's the world's greatest bench presser, the world champion bench presser, held a world record. He said, write me up a workout to actually increase my bench press. And so the guy actually broke it down into subcomponents and basically said you can actually increase 100 pounds on your bench press within, I think, like 10 weeks or less, like 8 weeks. And actually wrote out a program of what you should do each week, and how to increase it. So I actually tried it. I went from in 10 weeks, I went from like 135 pounds, because I actually restarted my bench press, right? I went from 135 pounds to 275 within 10 weeks.
Wow.
Just by doing that. I just wanted to see if it actually worked.
Okay. Wow.
So, but that's an example of finding out the most efficient way, not just hard work that has a portion to do with it. But if you actually blend hard work with efficiency, then you can actually speed up your rate of actually learning. I've done that with my grandson, like learning how to write. Okay, whereas they had him connecting the dots for like weeks, and it wasn't working for him. So basically, I just took away the paper. I got out a plain erase board. I just had him start actually just making the symbols, just starting with a C and whatnot, just making shapes, and then progressing to actually writing letters. And basically, he was 3 years old. He was actually writing his name freehand at 3.
Wow.
But just within, I think it was in like 2 months, I had him doing it.
So that's way ahead of when children normally start doing that, right?
Right. Yeah, he was 3 years old. They were actually fascinated that a 3-year-old could actually write his name freehand.
Wow.
Yeah. But the thing is that I found out how his mind worked, and actually developed a system around, you know, how his mind worked and what would be the most advantageous way to actually teach him, one step at a time, about how to do something. But
Hmm.
that comes from sports, and it comes from people like Tim Ferriss and other people I've seen actually break things down into little bitty pieces like sports does. So sports is actually a guideline of how to do certain things.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because sports is all sports is like playing basketball, football is a collection of skills. That's really what it was. Because if you rebound, it's a collection of skills. If you dribble, it's a collection of skills. If it's shooting, it's a collection of skills. And all those skills have little subcomponents that go along with it.
Hmm.
So if you increase one little bit, perfect one portion, then it's a building block for the next piece and the next piece and the next piece.
Hmm.
And that's how they teach modern athletes now anyway, by actually taking their little bitty piece that they're deficient in, and perfecting it, and keep chiseling away until they get a finished product.
Yeah. Okay. And then you can build the whole team strategies around
Mm-hmm.
individual skills.
Yep. In fact, I think they had a documentary about Kobe in Kobe's camp, and Kobe had a lot of technology in his camp about uh, testing reflexes, and showing computers showing models of showing positions and the most efficient way to get to something, and then drawing up strategies about how can you get to certain spots, and how can you uh, uh, ward off a defender or stuff like that. So it was actually very, very precise. It doesn't look like it, but Kobe was very, very precise about how he did things.
Okay, I never knew that. So he had a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah,
a lot.
if I find the video, I actually send it to you, where it actually show other NBA players coming to his camp. They actually learn how his method, how he does stuff, and they're showing the like Kyrie Irving and other players how what he taught them actually resulted in them able to be actually do it better on the court.
Hmm.
But the thing is, but Tim Ferriss learned, as you showed, it works for everything. How to learn a language, how to how to learn math, how to learn how to write. Like if you want to say, if you want to perfect your penmanship, right?
Hmm.
Okay, the experts say just take whatever script that you want to copy. He said take tracing paper, and for 30 days, for an hour a day for 30 days, just trace those letters over and over and over again until you get muscle memory. And then once you take it away, guess what? You still have the muscle memory, and it's the easiest way to actually make your penmanship better, rather than spend years and years and years. Easiest way: take some tracing paper, take something that's already perfected, and copy it over and over and over again, and make those motions until your muscle memory takes over.
Right. Okay.
But
Well,
there are like dozens of ways that where sports like um, sports like training can actually take over and actually teach you how to do things. It actually translate to other things.
okay. Okay. All right. Well,
If that makes sense.
yeah. Well, I was just thinking that, okay, that makes sense as to why oftentimes my handwriting looks different every time I do it. You know,
Yeah.
because, there's no. I'm not gonna say that I've been doing it for years, but I didn't learn it that way. You know.
You can actually change the way you do things and change your handwriting if you want to. But that's one lady I actually investigated even on YouTube. How did she do it? She changed her style of handwriting within a couple of months by doing that, because the muscle memory actually took over.
Okay. All right. Well, master teacher, we'll hang on for about another 10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So, to those watching, we started off talking about COVID and restarting sports.
Mm-hmm.
We both think that there's still a lot of uncertainty. If the NBA's used the bubble format. The NHL is proposing to use a bubble format.
Mm-hmm.
The other sports, what did you call the other model?
The open model,
An
basically.
open model, a
Yeah.
non-bubble format.
Yeah.
So
Non-bubble format.
we basically talked about the pros and cons of both, and the variables that these leagues are going to have to consider going forward as this unfolds. And BGS suggested that this is mostly money driven. There's a lot of money in pro sports and in college sports. And at least for basketball, what we're seeing is very different than what we saw before.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the overall energy, there's no fans. It feels more like a summer league or a basketball camp. If anyone's been to a basketball camp, you know that you are playing competitively, but it's pretty much closed. There are no fans there.
Mm-hmm.
And what for sports like football, what's that going to look like in the college level? When there's no band
Mm-hmm.
and there are no screaming fans up in the stands. And what's going to happen? BGS asked, what's going to happen when one player tests positive for it? What will they do then? So and a lot of these things they've been tight-lipped about the details going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So this is pretty much, as another content creator says, they're gonna have to build it as it goes along.
Build a plane as you're flying.
If it goes along to completion. The NBA has the advantage in that they had already started playing, so they're kind of finishing it up. These other leagues will be starting their play, attempting to start from the beginning. So, and the WNBA has also started playing as well, which hasn't been widely publicized, at least in my periphery.
And Dr. Dunbar says something is better than nothing.
And I think something is better than nothing. The Michigan fans, I think, would be okay with no football being played. We don't have to play Ohio State again. And you know what? It could be this catastrophe which shifts the pendulum back in the other way, which, maybe a year off would reset that whole rivalry. Who knows?
It's an interesting social experiment. How badly do we want and need sports?
Right. Well, a lot of people were. Some people live and die with their sports teams. There are people, I'm sure some, who have no life outside of their fantasy leagues and following Kobe and following the Lakers and following. There are some people whose whole lives were taken away once the sports were taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in that regard, there was a bit of a silver lining in the sports going away, because there are some people who have no other life, and
they're forced to go outside. Huh?
Forced to go outside, forced to do something else. It's funny. I actually had a Canadian friend one time, and she told me, she basically said the same thing. You guys are in the United States. You guys are obsessed with sports.
Mm-hmm.
So more so than any other nation on the planet.
Yeah, and it's glaring because when it went away, people are actually like, somebody died. Okay, they're holding eulogies because NBA stopped and the baseball season was actually delayed. People are like having eulogies out in the street, like, oh my God, no baseball, no basketball. What am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And then 3 months later, it's like, okay, we got through that.
Yeah.
And I don't see people really excited about the restart. It's like, okay, it's a restart, and people are really not like like slavering for it. Like they said like the opening of the NBA is like the okay, it's less than the opening of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a playoff game or something like that. They had it's like a regular season game to most people, and that was supposed to be the basketball after like months of being off. So I don't think there's as much appetite for it as they would imagine.
Well, for one thing, there's a lot more for people to worry about now, just in terms of survival.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, which you discuss on your channel. Some of it, when you hear about it, you kind of say, "Damn," we got a comment here. Popular figure Herman Cain just died from COVID. If an NBA player dies from COVID, do you think they will cover it up?
They can't cover it up, but they might play it down.
No, they can't. That would be a pretty hard cover up.
Yeah, and once you found out, then all the conspiracy theorists will be out after your hide in like hounds and like the hounds of Baskerville.
Yeah. The sneak 2008. If you want to click the link, you can come up on the panel for we'll probably go for a little while longer, or just a little bit longer. I was gonna say BGS. It's gonna be interesting. Like when they finish this, I was thinking about this a couple months ago. Are they gonna stop until next October, or are they gonna try to pick it right back up again? I mentioned
that is a good question. That's what I was actually interested in. How are you going to roll? Basically, this is almost can be like a extended preseason, right?
Yeah.
You finish it up, take a few weeks off, and just start the season again in November.
Okay.
Because now you don't need a preseason anymore because you just went through a season, and they've had like 3 months off with that with them doing nothing, so their bodies are probably recovered already.
Right. But from a mental standpoint, that would have to feel strange because you're probably used to having the break early summer and then coming back to it, and then to have to come right back to it, that would be strange.
Yeah, well, hell, it's strange already.
Yeah.
But the thing is, then you have just a normal season, which is long. So you have like 8 months to get yourself back into playoff readiness again, because it's such a long season. That's if they can get rid of the bubble format.
Right.
If they can't get rid of the bubble format, then it's probably not going to work very well.
Right. Because not every team is competing. And the players.
Yeah.
Not every player is in. And then you're also hoping, as they're resuming play now, that there won't be any blown ligaments, or because that's a danger as well. Since they haven't been playing and now they're going full speed, in a way that kind of increases the likelihood for a blown ligament.
They're kind of going full speed. I don't really see it out there. I think they're out there for a paycheck right now. I don't think their hearts are really in it. At least it doesn't look that way to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can always know that you play ball. The hardest thing to actually get into is actually playing defense. Offense is pretty easy because you work on that by yourself all the time.
Yes.
Defense, you have to want to play. You have to have a reason to play defense, and that's the tell, and especially in the NBA, is the defense. People are not like beating each other up or getting up on each other's grill, so I don't think the intensity is there. From what I've seen, guys are getting to the hole way too easy, and dunking because nobody wants to slide over and take that charge. In fact, nobody's sliding over and taking charges.
Right.
So the intensity is not there. So I think they're not at full speed or full intensity right now.
Okay. All right. Looks like the Clippers are up 105 to 68 over New Orleans.
Yeah, that pretty much tells you all you need to know. The intensity is not there.
Well, and then it's a shortened pre-playoff format, so
yeah.
I'm sure the Clippers have something to prove after losing to the Lakers on Thursday. Okay. Are you is Art going up later on?
He probably will be up right around 8 p.m. or will it be 11 p.m. your time?
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I haven't gone outside today. So I think we'll go for a little drive.
Okay.
So
how's the weather back there?
you know what? My phone said it was supposed to rain, and then
Mm-hmm.
it turned out to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of clear. It's kind of clear here. You know, on the East Coast, it gets humid.
Mm-hmm.
At least this part of the country, it gets humid in the summer times. But it's been clear today. How about out in Southern Cal?
And we're like almost 90 degrees and clear.
Okay.
So it's hot and dry in Southern Cal.
Hot and dry. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tell you, man, it had become a tradition. My best friend lives in Phoenix, so I'd gotten used to coming out west every summer.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if I will this year, but definitely miss coming out west. I won big when I was in Vegas in October.
Okay.
On the penny slots.
Oh, they put your name on the board.
Well, it felt good to walk out of the casino with a couple of $100 that I didn't.
Oh, okay. I thought you got your name on the board. Like I
won.
No. Like $21,000 at the slot. Okay.
No. And you know what's funny is that was the first time me and my family had gone to Vegas before, you know, but in the process of starting my science career,
mm-hmm.
And just, you know, getting rid of debt and just getting in a comfortable place,
mm-hmm.
I hadn't always gone with money to lose.
Okay.
So it's a much different trip when you can go and sit in the gaming area or the slots. You could sit there and just play for hours and hours and not worry about losing the money. I mean, no one wants to lose money, but it's a much different trip when you can go and do that.
Okay. Take a risk, huh?
Take some risk. That's right. And just enjoy being there.
Or the mindless thing of watching the little dials roll around, the penny slots,
and getting drinks steadily brought to you.
Yeah, to keep you playing. Yep,
playing. Yep. Okay, well, Master Teacher, thank you for coming up. We'll have to do this again.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll get my monologue right the next time. I'll put myself.
I was wondering. I said maybe something came up. I said, well, you know, I saw it up there. I said, well, maybe he's not there. Maybe something came up.
You know what? And I saw you, and you went up, and I couldn't hear you, and I was like, okay, what's happening here? And then I realized, okay, I have to enter myself up.
That's my daughter. Yeah.
Okay. I have to put myself up into the stream as well. I figured once you go into the broadcast, I'm in the broadcast. But again, you learn by doing. Now I've done this a second time, so yeah. All right. Well, yeah. We should once they go a few more weeks into the NBA, let's try it again.
Yeah, but you know, want your expertise in case something breaks.
Yes.
Yeah, because like I said. NBA, they've been pretty open. In NHL, they've been pretty open, but football, they've been kind of like muted. So I'm saying there might be something going on behind the scenes.
That's right. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go outside. And,
all right.
Maybe I'll bump into you guys later on tonight.
All right, Doc. Thanks.
Thanks, Master Teacher.
All right. Peace.
Bye-bye.